So we have two of us, two students online, a couple here. I think the rest are at the business job there over at UMD. So that goes. Okay, so what are we going to do today? So we're looking at these recycle views in this learning activity. And we're going to return to that, and we're going to try to do it in Kotlin today for this. So we worked on this Java version on Tuesday. Today we're going to go through this Kotlin version and look at that. And we're going to try to look at it in two different ways in Kotlin. The new easy way and the old hard way of doing it. So the old hard way is very similar to the Java way of a recycle view, and you have to create a number of classes. The new easy way skips all that and just creates uses something called a lazy column instead of a recycle view. So I'm going to go. So I'm in the learning activity and scrolling on the Kotlin version. I'm going to grab this Kotlin version of this file, accept the assignment. I'm going to close this project out, I think. Okay. Okay, here's my new GitHub repo for this. So again, I'm going to go into my thing. Since I don't have a project open, I have to click on this ... to say import the Android Studio code, sample. I'm going to click on, oops, that's not what I want. Sorry, I want to just clone a repository. Interesting. Maybe it changed. It used to be that wasn't an option right here. So that's interesting. So, okay, clone a repository here. I'm getting this error off an invalid JDK, so you might have to select that. If that's, I just like to enable this option here and it'll fix it. So I just click that box and hit OK. I don't know why that keeps coming up with some of these projects, but if you see that, you can click there, open up the configuration, just click on the enable auto, like it's like an auto config option at step 4. Okay. And we'll just let this build until we get this app version view of things here. And we'll talk about the main layout that we have here for this. So if you remember, we have a main activity. And again, this is very similar with Java or Kotlin. We have a main activity, a main view model, a pizza repository, a pizza database, and a pizza DAO, data access object here. So we have all those classes. We have our main activity, the view model, the pizza. This is what we're storing information on, is just a pizza here. And then the pizza repository, the pizza database, and the DAO. So that, and hopefully this will run. Let me run this and see. It has run before when I wasn't in the lab here. So let's see if it runs here. So again, when it says if you want to upgrade this, you can. I'm going to try not to, because again, often if I upgrade things, it forces everyone else to do the upgrades, and we don't want to force everyone to do these upgrades. So I generally, when it asks me to upgrade a project or upgrade a Gradle, and I don't think I need to, I will just skip that here. Okay, so I'm just going to try to run this app on my screen and see how that goes. So again, the basic configuration here is we have our pizza DAO data access object, and that defines our SQL queries to our database. Our pizza database then creates a DAO object, because that is actually just an interface and not a class, but it uses a factor to create an instance of that here, and creates a database with a certain name in localized version of the database here on my phone. It runs a MySQL, I think it runs a MySQL database on our phones and does that. The pizza repository then is just a separation class from the database and the view model, so that it would make it easier to swap out different database instance here. So this just has a repository and provides like an upsert all, an observe all, and account delete and delete all methods. And again, we don't necessarily need all of these here, but they're all available for our database. And then our view model holds a copy of that database here. So now when we run this over here, I've already created a couple pizzas and those are showing up here. Now I'm going to create a new pizza. I'm going to do a small, let's do a small chicken pizza, and we'll add it to the order, and it'll should add it to the list here. So does that all seem familiar? That's how we're using a database. Let's see if I can remember how to zoom in. Alt Shift plus. Plus. Okay, make that a little bigger. Okay. So now there's a couple ways of doing this. The hard way that we did in Java, and we'll look at again today, is we define a special layout row here. We add an order adapter, a recycle view adapter, and we have to add a view holder class with that here. So we can add those classes, but Kotlin provides uses this Jetpack Compose option, which gives us rather than doing a layout file here, so we don't have a layout file in this. If we look in resources, there's no layout file. In fact, everything is done in the main activity here. So if we look at the main activity, the main activity works. It creates a pizza repository here, and then it creates a view model for this. So this is our, it instantiates the database and the view model, and then it displays the pizza order screen. And the pizza order screen is what's actually on the screen here. That's this. And it is a composable. And so, like, again, any composable is like a widget we're displaying on the screen for this. So this is a composable. We're passing in the view model. I'm giving it the name VM for view model here. And this is our pizza order screen. And again, that's what we're doing. And again, we create our view model up here and we pass the view model to this composable here. the composable then goes through and creates the actual layout of things here. So it creates like the buttons and the order box for this. It has some little helper functions here. Let's just talk a little bit about how, so where have you, so have you guys, I'm trying to think of where you've seen something like this. So what have you done as far as web design stuff? Some of you might be in full stack now. And do you know what you're using there? Using JavaScript? What JavaScript library are you going to be using? Do you know? Is it like React or Node? What? Node? Okay. So again, sometimes with JavaScript and I'm not sure how Node works. You'll define like widgets and build widgets, other widgets, and put widgets on the screen here. When we get to Flutter, we'll use widgets a lot, and you'll create widgets, and you'll make widgets from other widgets, and then your screen will just be a widget here. I know like in React, which is a different JavaScript library, that tends to use similar stuff. You create components and what are they called in React? Yeah, they call it components. I think so. Yeah, you create. I think there's a component because I'm thinking of a component folder where you put your components in and you build other components from those in React. Does that sound?
Yeah, I think we are going to use React in full stack.
Okay.
We're using Node just as like
the back. Yeah. Right. Right. So yeah, you probably will. I wouldn't be surprised if you're using React and create these components there. And so this idea, and again, here we're calling, instead of components or widgets, we call them composables here for this. And we can break them down, and we can break them. So often this is like one big composable, but has this comment. So this is like the buttons here. This is the order box. This box that displays the orders for us here. And here's like the list of the toppings here. So often what we'll do is we'll break these down because these can get very complicated when we start adding more features, adding animations, adding all this stuff to them. Each one of these can get quite complicated here. You can imagine the toppings. Right now we're hard coding 3 toppings in there, but in reality, there's probably a list of toppings, and we're going to go through that. Might be out in a database or whatever, get that list and update it. So that eventually will get quite complicated here. So what we want to do often is break these one composable up into multiple composable objects here. So I'm going to, I'm going to bring up an AI. I'm going to go to chat, I guess. Okay. We are learning about using Kotlin with compose for Android. Can you explain this code to me? Now, when I'm working with AI on some coding, I often I don't ask it to do something. I ask it, we call a simple question. A simple question kind of set up. This is, can you just explain this code for me? I don't want you to do anything hard for it. Just tell me what this code is. And that'll set the code in its context. So now I can ask it here. So again, it's talking about a composable marks at the beginning of the function. It's reading the state information from our VM, our here. It does a layout, a column layout. It does a title citing. So I'm going to ask it now how it would suggest we break these into components here. What are some suggestions for breaking this large composable into smaller elements? Because what I want to do is I want to take like this order box. I want to copy this out, and I want to copy this out and make it its own function for the order box because this is what we're going to be changing here. And I don't necessarily, I could change it in here, but I'd rather have it in its own composable here. So, so again, it's suggesting a number of composables here for this stuff. So a size selector composable, a toppings row composable here, an order action composable, and an order box composable. So again, see what it's created this order box composable. That is basically just this. Let me bring this over. That is basically just taking this outline field here for this and breaking it up. Now, here you say, well, no, it changed something. It uses a text here. And so, but it has the order text here, and it's changing it because it needs that from the main composable. So it adds a argument here for the text because that's what we have to display is the order text here. So it's putting that here and renaming it text and doing this. The rest, I think, is pretty similar. So again, we can just do that same thing here for us. Let's see. So yeah, we have got this composable here. I'm gonna go down at the end of that composable for this. Let's see. And I'm gonna make a new composable function. So I'm just gonna do a function. And again, this is my order box. I'm just gonna say order box. I'm not going to put any parameters right away. And I'm just going to move this down to that. I'm just going to copy that out, put it in the order box function here for this. And then I'm going to call the order box up here. So I'm just going to replace that. So So again, it's going to want, I forgot to add the composable up here. So it's going to want to add a composable up there so that it'll be happy. So we have the order box here. I'm not quite sure why it's having problems with this weight here, because again, I just took that from here for this. Um, so yeah, our goal is to kind of break this, we can break these parts up into these little widgets here. So we could have a separate composable for the buttons and another composable for the toppings for this, and put these all in place as separate objects for us. So again, the idea would be to create a set of composables so that our main pizza composable would just be a couple call made up, would be much smaller and just made up of a number of other composables here. So I'm just going to do one. So we've got one for size, one for toppings, and one for buttons here. So I'm going to do, I'm going to duplicate this. Size. And I'm going to grab this size stuff and put it in that one. Similarly, I'm going to make one for the toppings. So and put that down here. Oops. If I can get my fingers in the right spot, I'm going to do that. So, and I'm going to call size up here. I'm going to call toppings. You must be declaring these in slightly the wrong context because it's not seeing these. Yeah, I think I'm inside my other composable here. So I'm going to move these outside. I think I'm inside that other composable. So I'm going to try to group these. And put them down here. There. I think I was declaring them inside this other composable. So I think that was causing me problems. So yeah, that looks better. Okay. So, but then we have to worry about like here, my order text. I need that down here. So, but it's not there. So again, just like we showed here, in this example, we can pass in the order text as a string here. So I can just pass in the order text out. AI called it text. I'm just going to call it order text and pass it in here. And again, when I when I'm up here and then call the order box, I want to put in the order text for that and pass that in down there. So similarly with size here, we've got a size property for this, that the size of the pizza. So I think I'm gonna rename the size widget to be size display or something like that. So I don't confuse it with the actual size property. Okay. And then I have this size property. I want to pass that in. So it's going to need the size down here. So down here, where the size display, I'm going to need to add that for this. So yeah, size, pizza size for this. So. One thing you have to decide is how complex these different composables are. Like we have this view model. Do we want to pass that to these things or not here? So here they call it a size selector. That was probably a better name for this stuff. And they passed in the size string for this. They also passed in an onChanged method to call because again, we want when the size changes, we have to call a method, another method here for that, and we have to have the right our view model updated with the new size selection for this. So again, you can pass in a on change here. You can also just pass in the view model. There's arguments either way. So again, we could just add the VM view model here to this, which would be different than this. So here they're passing an on change function. So when they're calling this up here, here they're passing in the on change event to that. So okay, toppings, I need to get so just like with the size, we had to pass the size display or size selector. We had to pass the size in here. With the toppings, we might want to pass in our topping selection stuff here so we can display this. And then we also need to be able to update them with our view model for these. So again, we can, when we're passing in the toppings, we can pass in we've got our chicken, pizza, and green peppers here. So we can pass in our chicken, pepperoni, green peppers into that. And then down here, for those, we can declare those. It actually is putting our view model there, and I want that in there too. So besides the toppings, we also want to pass in our view model for that. I kind of got distracted by breaking this up and talking to you about composables. We really haven't actually done anything. We've just been refactoring this here. So it'll work. Let's see. I'm still have a problem with the weight here. I'm just going to comment that out for now. Okay. I'm gonna rerun this, see if there's any. Rerun this and hopefully it should run the same way. We've just broken it up into components here for this. So let's see if I can run this again. So on my app, I'm seeing the same thing. I can order my pizza, I can change the size, add it to the order, and it'll add to the list. So again, I've just refactored this. I haven't actually added any features for this. So now there is not an ability to scroll this here, and we've got kind of limited display of our pizzas here. So let's talk about how we want to do that here. So let's go back to our assignment here. Oops, that's the heart rate one. Oops. Yeah, I pasted in the wrong instructions here. This is the instructions for the assignment. I pasted those in. What did I paste in for the assignment? Oh, the same ones. Oh, okay. Okay, I'm going to want to tweak those. Let me change this. So again, we're going to be working with our pizza item, our pizza. And I guess we already have a pizza item here. But we want to create a composable function for pizza. Yeah, so let's talk about that before we do that. So right now in here, we have our lot of functions in this one class. So we have our main activity, and all these things are defined in here. Now, sometimes these are going to get more complicated, and so you could actually move some of these into their own files here. So like toppings, eventually that's probably going to get very complicated. We're probably going to want to read in the list of toppings from somewhere and create these chips and all that sort of stuff. So we could move that into its own file and just import it here and call it for this. Right now it's here. And so that's what we have to decide. I think what I like to do often is create these in. So it's saying create a pizza item file and then create a composable there. But I'm going to do it in this main activity first. And then we'll work from there. So I'm going to create a composable here for a pizza item. And we're going to give it a pizza. Oops. It's going to be a pizza object. There. So this will display a single pizza. So I'm just going to display. Oh, it's not typed today. So we're just going to display single pizza in our list of pizzas for this. So I'm just going to take the default here to just display a simple pizza description here in a column. And then we'll modify that later on for this. I'm going to want, so again, what we often do with lists, and in the same way with this, when we did this earlier, we created a layout for a row, and then we had a viewer that would, view that whole thing. We're kind of doing the same thing. This is a little composable that displays one line, a pizza on one line, basically, or one area, one card or something like that. And then we're going to create a pizza list composable. And so we're going to use this lazy column instead of a pizza list here. So for this, let's turn, I'm going to use AI a little bit. I'm going to grab my, yeah. Oh, let's just leave it there. Okay. You make a simple pizza list composable that uses this. Use a lazy column to display a list of pizza items. So again, we're going to add this composable function. We'll give it some name. We'll pass it in a list of pizzas here, and then we'll use a lazy column for this. So right now, let's see, let me find where we're displaying I guess we have our order box. Let's look at what our order box does. That displays our orders here. So it is displaying our orders for this. It has a text fields. Your order will appear here for that. I guess, and we're passing in our order text for that. So where are we getting that order text from? So our order text here, we are creating that from our view model, and we're getting the whole order from the view model here. So our view model can provide us our order text, the full order for this. Let's see, what are we calling there? We're calling, yeah, we're just getting order text, I think, from that. So. Yeah, so order text is going through our list of pizzas here and creating a joining all the descriptions from this list here for us to use. So we can just get a whole list of our pizzas there, but I'd rather get a list of the pizzas themselves, not just some text for them. So what we're going to want to do is change this so that we are getting a list of pizzas and we're going to send that to our objects. Now, there are some people who would argue that that may not be the best construct. So here's our layout, and this is kind of architectural question. So the blue is the UI stuff. The yellow or the orange stuff is the database stuff. And again, we kind of want a model view model, separation here for this. So a question often comes up is this pizza object, that is what we're storing in the database and we're moving around this repository. Do we want the UI to know what and work with the pizza object here? And do we want it to know that, or do we want something else there? Because the object we store in the database might be different than the object we're displaying here in some way. A typical example is that, like, if this is a customer here, we might have the date of birth of a customer stored in the database. But when we're displaying it, we want to display it as an age, not a date of birth there. So at some point, we want to translate this date of birth into an age variable here. So in full systems, we usually have two objects. You have a pizza entity that's stored in a database and a pizza item that would be used by the UI. And then your view model would map things from your pizza entity from the database into your pizza object there that would your UI would know and use. And it would do things like translate a date of birth into an age so that the UI never sees the date of birth. It only would see the age there. We're not going to do that. We're just going to kind of break those rules and say, okay, we're just going to move the pizza, have the pizza. Everyone's just going to use pizza, okay? And it's just going to be the same pizza everywhere for this because it's already getting complicated enough, I think. So we're going to just use pizza everywhere for this. Okay, so we're going to want to create a pizza. We have a pizza item here for us, and now we're going to create a pizza list that's going to display a list of pizzas for this. So again, that's what we were asking. Let's see, what we were asking to do here. Yeah, so that's what we asked to do is create a pizza list idea with a lazy column. So I'm going to grab that and put that in here. So far, we've been just using column to display a list of things stacked vertically and row to store things horizontally. Lazy column is a new thing. So I'm going to make sure I'm going to have to import that here. So let's have it. ChatGPT is so friendly. It always tells me ask great questions. And I must because that's obviously it. So, okay. So columns, all the children are composed and laid out immediately. So even if you make a list of 1,000 things, we compose all 1,000 items and lay them all out. So again, good for small number of items for this. You can add scrolling manually to this. And this is how we would lay out a column here. Lazy columns, only the visible items plus a little bit extra for scrolling. And again, this should be sounding just like a recycle view. Again, we lay out the items in the display plus one or two at the top or bottom so we can scroll here. So again, lazy column, only the visible items plus a little bit for scrolling are composed and kept in memory. Designed for large or infinite lists here, very efficient, behaves like a recycle view in the old view system here for that. Provides items and item builders to add items to the list. Scrolling is built in. So it adds these differences. So let's talk a little bit about the item and item view, because again, with the let's go back here. In Java, we needed this in our recycle view adapter. We had a on create and an on bind, and that was used to create new items and bind them to the display for that. And so we have to do something kind of similar to that here. So we'll explore a little bit there. More about items and item in a lazy. So I really don't think this was a good question, because if it was a good question, it would have been a little more excited. Because usually it says good, great question, thumbs up. And this was just a good question. So not as excited about that. So good question. You can just hear it in its voice. It's a little disappointed in me for asking. Actually, you should have known this, Tom. Why are you asking me this? So, okay. Item adds a single element to a list, useful for headers, footers, or dividers, or unique rows here. So if we want to add one thing to that. Items, given a list, adds multiple items to the list here. So again, we can say items, pizzas, and then it will, and we give it one pizza, here, it'll loop through all the pizzas in all the pizza things in pizzas, this list. And we're given, it's like a built-in loop. We're given each pizza. So here's one pizza here. And then we display the information about that pizza here, like in a text. So here we have, again, like 3 pizzas here, and we're generating 3 rows of pizzas with this items area. So, there's also this index thing where if you need the index as you're going through the pizza, so you can say items index pizza, and that you're given 2 things, the pizza and the index. So this is like if you're in a for loop and you need the counter variable in your for loop to display pizza 1, pizza 2, or something like that, this would give you that counter as you're going through the loop for that. So again, item for a one-off stuff, but for a list of things, we're going to use items here. So that's why here, let's see if that makes sense with our pizza list here. Our pizza list, we're doing a lazy column. We're doing items here. And we're being given the pizzas for this. And then for each pizza in the list, we're going to just pass that pizza to the pizza item up here for this. So that's our layout here. So now we want to tie this in. We want to get our list of pizzas and display this here. Use our list of pizzas for this. So I'm trying to figure out why I'm getting an error. Argument type mismatched. Type is int, but pizza was expected. It says this is an int. I'm not sure why, because this should be a list of pizza object elements. And so that should match our what we define as our pizzas over here for this. So okay, so let's see if we can call our pizza list here. So we're going to want to replace our order box with our pizza list for this. So I'm going to go up here where we have our order box here. I'm going to want to replace that with our pizza list and not do the order box. And again, it filled this in automatically. So from our view model, it is going to get our pizza and it is trying to get a list of pizzas from that, from our view model for this. I'm still getting this error here. There, okay. I haven't done an import, it looks like. Now it's happier. So let's see if how this is working if we rerun this. So again, this should be displaying our list of pizzas with our pizza item stuff. And then here we could change our pizza item display to add additional things to it. So if I change this to 24 and rerun this. Should display this with a bigger space in between. And then we can do a better layout. Right now, we're just displaying the pizza description here. So we're given a pizza, we can just like display the pizza size. Instead, dot to thing. So now it's just displaying the size of the pizza and not the full description. And then we can modify this to be, a much, we can have a picture of a pizza and then the size, or, we can change it to however we want it to display each pizza. So this one thing, this is how we're given a pizza and we want to display that one pizza, and that will take care of it. However we want to display that. Let's You make a fun for displaying a pizza to place this. Here is our pizza. Oops. Okay, now it has our pizza up, and I'm displaying this. Now it's going to use here, it's just using a text field uh, for this and a column. But what we probably want to do is to use a card. In a card, each will be like a separate little thing for each object here that you'll display and then it'll do a row within that. It's going to use a pizza emoji. So here's this whole pizza class here. Now look at this is getting pretty long in here. So before I put that in there, I'm going to move that into its own file, I think. So let's move this to its own file for this. So I'm going to make a new class called pizza item. New Kotlin class called pizza item. I'm going to then move this whole add it to GitHub. And I'm going to move this whole composable into that. Do that. And then I'm going to delete it here. And I'll need to import it up above here. So I just don't know enough Kotlin programming I'm not sure I'm doing this right. I think I have to do something a little bit different to mark this as a composable function here. So I'm going to check with Gemini here. As I move pizza item into its own file, do I update the activity to use this composable? Oops. Yeah. I don't know if you've used Gemini much. I I don't know what version of Gemini they're using here. I don't find the Gemini in here that smart. Here, I actually, find Gemini, just plain Gemini, smarter than this. I don't know if, and again, I haven't. I think they're improving it, so maybe it'll do better. So okay, create a file out there for this. And do the import for this. Import your pizza composable if it's import, yeah. Now there's another version here of agent mode, which will actually make these changes for you. But again, I haven't found agent mode to be that great yet. I don't trust it that well. So let's see how we're doing. So again, we're creating a pizza item class here. We did that. And again, we just put this all in here. So So I think that's what we do. We don't even create a class. We just create this pizza item function inside that file. So we'll add that here. That looks good. And then in the main activity, I think that looks like it's working okay. So now I have this pizza item in its own file. And then now that I have that, I can, work with it. Here's my fancy pizza item. I'm just going to take this whole fancy pizza item and replace this pizza item with it to display a fancier pizza item. I have to do some imports, import card. Import row. Okay, that's looking better. So now if I rerun this, it should be using this separate class. So here's my new view of pizzas that I have. So again, I'm displaying this icon, large pizza, pepperoni or chicken or green peppers. Green pepper icon looks a little bit like broccoli to me, but hey, that's okay. It tried for that. So for this. And again, I can order more pizzas. And well, let's just make green peppers because I'm liking how that looks. Yeah, there's our green pepper order though. Okay, so this is how we again, and this will be much more similar to how we'll see this in Flutter. When we do Flutter, we'll create these widgets and we'll move widgets into our separate items or separate files often at some point here. And then we'll set it up here. So, and one thing I'll just note is that here we're getting this, again, we're getting a lot of this broken up. And so at some point, and I would say this would be the point I would do it, I would start making folders here for this. And again, there are standard ways of making folders in different environments or different companies have for this. Yeah, and I don't know in Kotlin, what's the standard folder name? What are the standard folder names used in a large Kotlin project with compose and auto view model? Data and UI would be components. Okay, and a model. Yeah, okay. That's what I would have probably guessed too. Okay, so here I would make two folders here. So again, here what we call a folder, what is actually a package, a sub package. So I create a new package and I would call this maybe data. And then I'd have another package that would be called UI. Oops, UI is already there. Okay. I already have a UI package, so we're not doing that. Inside the UI package, I'm going to make a package called components here. So and then I would move some things around. So a bunch of this stuff I'd stick in data, like the pizza DAO that would go in the data, refactor that. The database would go in the data. The repository would go in the data. Now, sometimes the pizza object itself, you'd have a separate folder just for those entities or something like that. In fact, this is suggesting the model, like your pizza class, it would be there. So again, I'm going to leave that out here but the UI stuff, I'm going to put like the pizza item in the components folder for that. So all the components would be in there. So as I create new forms, I would probably break out in my main activity, I'd probably break out a lot of these things into their own components and put them in here for this. But we're not gonna do that right now. But just so you know, that's how I would lay it out. So again, we got the main activity and see, I would stick the main activity in the UI also. I would put that in here. I guess, oh, I see. It's UI.themes. Oh, yeah. So there's a folder here. I want UI and then I want .themes. So this is UI.themes.components. I didn't do that quite right, but oh well, we'll leave it be. But again, you would start organizing things into packages or folders at this point. Okay. I'll try to update these instructions to match that. Just so you know, there's the hard way. I'm actually going to take out the hard way and not have you. We're not going to do that. Am I editing this yet? The problem with the hard way is to use that in conjunction with the way I gave you here. How to get out of this? Yeah, okay. It is hard to combine both Jetpack Compose, where we do everything in our main, in these composable functions with the layout stuff. And to go do a recycle view, you have to do it as a layout file here and add a layout and do that sort of stuff. So you can do it. In fact, you can do all of Kotlin with layout files and stuff like that here. We could do it just like in Java with Kotlin files. But I think if you're going with Kotlin, a more modern way, you should be using, I think, Jetpack Compose and using this sort of lazy layout, lazy columns and lazy rows. Okay, so see if you can get a version. Let me save this out here. Let me commit and push. Let's try this. Oh, working. Version from Thursday. Commit everything. Again, watch when you commit here, if there are any warnings, and there's always warnings, you have to commit anyway. So make sure you click commit anyway, and then make sure you do a push after that there. So that shall be pushed. Let me see. I'll link a version of that out here. Okay, so I posted a link to my final version here. I think you can look at that too. So again, for class, you really just have to do one of these learning versions, either Java or Kotlin, so you can decide kind of, if you which one you get done and submit that. When you submit in Brightspace, just tell me which one to look at or which one you were working on, the Java or the Kotlin version of it. There. Oh yeah. No, I did. Maybe let's look at that. I was supposed to do that. Okay. Yes. So yeah, I'm gonna wrap up, except let me debug that right now. Okay. Because yeah, we left off the Java version. It wasn't quite working for that. Okay. Um, I'm going to close this. Just a sec. Um, okay. What? You can tell I'll either be great or I'll do the question. That'll be. You got it. Yes. I just don't know because the difference is so big. Oh, right. How the display should maybe be different. So yeah, the pizza item, you're just displaying the pizza size now, so it just should list up the pizza size and it's not. So that looks like it's not one to work. So like we have this. Yeah, and it's a list in gray, so if you're not using it at all. So. No, well, leave it there for now, I guess. But up in the main activity here, where what we're calling, it was called the order list. Just roll up some more. Like here, order box. Comment that out and call the pizza list instead. Or yeah, what was it on? No, oh, what is your composable down here that displays the list? Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, call pizza list. This- Your Geminiism?
No, so I try to do everything, but then automatically.
I just, make sure you, well, if you click on the little Gemini button over here, yeah. But shows up here. Oh, yeah, you. Yeah. So the project context is disabled, so it can't see your project. That's, you want to, try to enable that. That was insane. Okay. Um. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Add API. So you generate. Great. That's, that's probably why I asked that so much. I'm gonna see if I can get this to actually work, but I told you I would. Oh. Let's see. Oh. Okay, I'm going to share a solution to this problem we had last class here. So again, if you remember our order adapter, I don't think it was getting updates from the live data. And again, we haven't talked about live data too much, but again, what we do is inside our view model, we declare our list of pizzas as a live data object there. And then our main activity can subscribe or observe that here. So we can do an observer. So what that means is that anytime that data changes in the main view model, our main activity is told about that change. Right now we have this in our main activity, we have this observer, I guess this is our get all observer. Anytime any of the orders change, we're observing that here. And what we need to do is we need to update our recycle viewer whenever we get an update of this. So we have this setup recycle viewer, which actually sets up or creates the whole recycle view for us here. Here's our setup recycle view, ties things together for that. And then in our recycle view, we are grabbing the live data. So like when we're getting the item count, we're grabbing the list of live data here, and then we're using that to get the size. And again, here we're in the view binder, we're given a position. We grab the list of pizzas, grab the pizza. We're given a position, and we're grabbing that list of pizzas from that item. So that'll let us display this list here. It's not updated. Let me update this. Yeah. But I was only getting one pizza to display at a time. And this is a common error I make, and people make all the time, is by default on our layout, the layouts take a whole screen. So I can actually scroll, and the other pizzas are here. They just are filling up one screen at a time for this. So one thing we do want to remember when we're doing our layout here, we laid out a row here, and we laid out the row. And so here, get the attributes. So layout width is match parent. So it fills up the whole screen here. We want it to wrap the contents. So now you'll see this little blue line, and that's just for one item there. And then if I do that and I rerun this, it should display it like this better. Now, in reality, we're not doing it the best way here. In our order adapter, we really shouldn't be grabbing live data there. It would be better if we just handle that in our, what you'd often do is in your main activity, you would maintain a list of pizzas there. And so whenever in your main activity, you'd have a little cache of the pizza, so that whenever the live data changed, you would just update that list, and then you would pass that list of pizzas here directly rather than a live data list for this. It would be a lot faster, and then you'd have, when you maybe just update activity here. So again, this isn't the best way, the fastest way to do this, but it is just one way. And there are, again, if I were to clean this up, I would probably add in our main activity, add a list keep a list of pizzas there that we want to display and pass those to the order adapter rather than having the order. Right now we're passing the view model to the order adapter and then using that to get the data. So you can look at it other ways. All right, but this should now work. I'll save this, I'll post this to GitHub and share this online also.